Welcome and good evening all. This is the Multiclass Wednesday LMU Race 3 at Spa-Francorchamps for QRT. I will be your host for tonight. I am Ian, nice to meet you all. We're hoping for a good qualifying with some nice laps and then afterwards of course a race. Let's see if we have some cars out on track. Doesn't look like it quite yet, but I can see the first GT3 just going out on track here. Jeroen, Jonge, going out on track. And of course in these races it's both the GT3s and the hypercars. So the first lap we will probably be seeing from the hypercars, and then afterwards we'll be seeing the GT3s going out for their actual laps. So let's head to the person that set the quickest lap during practice then. And that is this man, Karabachak, and I hope I say that correctly. Please correct me in the comments if I said that wrong. He set a 2-minute 2.1 in practice, and let's see if he can replicate that on his first lap during qualifying as well. And of course on this out lap it's very important to warm your tires up nicely, because I don't believe we have tire warmers in this session. So let's see how Karabachak goes on with doing that. And seeing as he was quite fast in practice, I think he will do quite well on that perspective. And of course, a very beautiful track out today. Clear skies for now, but I did hear earlier in the driver's briefing that there might be a little chance of rain during the race. So that might come in handy for some entertaining racing later on. But we'll have to see about that. Let me now also see if we can go on board. Sadly we can't because the overlay isn't working the way I wanted to, but we'll work around that problem. So going through Blanchimont here then. Nice and wide over the curb. Into the bus stop and ready to set up his lap. A bit wide on the first part. Let's see if he can salvage it here. Seems like a good exit, and we're gonna go up to the source for the first turn. Keeping it stable on the brakes, on the downshifts, getting it turned a bit wide there, but maybe that's helping his line. Out on the exit, up to Eau Rouge and Radion. Hugging the wall, running over the curb on the inside. And again, just not touching the curb there, jumping a bit. That might lose him some time onto the Camel straight. And a nice long straight here to really stretch the legs of that Isotta Franchini, of course. And turning into the chicane here. Doing nicely, just about hopping over the curb to get that extra turn in. Going up to, I believe, what is Bruxelles now. Turning in nicely, as I see he has set a purple sector in the first sector. So the quickest out of everyone until now. Through No Name we go. Nice on exit, just about not touching the gravel there. Perfectly done. Up to Pouon now. On the curb a little bit on exit, on entry. Running a bit wide through the first bit. A bit wide on exit as well of the first part. But doing it perfectly on the second one. And up here touching the curb just that little bit. Making him run a little bit wide halfway through the corner. But perfectly done on exit nonetheless. Into Stavro, and yes, perfectly done there as well, again on exit. This is a good lap for a first lap, I think, and purple middle sector as well, as we go over the back straight now. Up to Blanchimont. It will of course be full throttle in these cars, no doubt about it. Yep, there we go, over the curbs. And then into the bus stop chicane, keeping it nice and tidy under the brakes. Ooh, a bit of a snap out of the first bit, second part going well. This purple sector has just been broken by somebody else. I don't quite know who that is yet, but for now the quickest lap. With Scotland just, oh, I'm sorry, Caspi just 2.5 tenths behind, so it's quite tight on the field. Right there, let's head to the GT3s then now coming out of Blanchimont. Papayes with 2 purple sectors already up to the bus stop chicane, keeping it nice and tidy there. Ooh, a bit of a slide as well from him. And getting onto the exit, going for it up to the straight up to the finish line, and that is quite a nice time. I believe that is quicker than during practice, because the quickest practice time for GT3 cars was at 2:21.5. So in the hypercars we haven't quite matched that pace yet, but in the GT3s we're actually going faster than the practice times. That is an amazing thing to see already. Let's see if we have anybody else out on a lap already. Some people are still coming out and other people are staying in the pits or haven't joined yet, which is a shame. Do you have anybody on an outlap at the moment? Jakob Burovic is on an outlap at the moment, but he's nowhere close to the finish line yet. And Kaiser also isn't anywhere close. Do we have anybody else on a lap then? Gabachak on a lap again, but not quite as pacey as during his first one. And I think he might have gone off track on the second sector, since his second sector time isn't showing up. It usually means you have gone off outside of the track in LMU when your sector times don't show up, so that might be it. Lucas de Deugd then going almost. Ooh, just a bit of a lock up there, keeping it just about under control. I say that while he half spins out. That will not be a good lap from the Deugd. But no worries about that. Enough time remaining, should be able to do 2 more laps after this. And I saw somebody cheering for Jeroen. Yeah, I know, commentator curses. Always. I saw somebody cheering for Jeroen, so let's look at his lap. Jonge then going through up to the back straight in the lovely BMW M4 livery for Valentino Rossi, of course, which is an amazing car to see out on track every time. Going up to the bus stop, he has improved his lap a little bit, but it won't just about be a purple lap, I think, unless he pulls a massive one in the third sector. Onto the exit curb. Coming up to the finish line, what will it be? Well, a couple of purple sectors in the end, it seems like, which is a bit weird. But third place for now, nicely done. Let's head back to the hypercars, since I see that Karabachak is on a lap again. He's 4/10 behind Casby, both in the Isotta Franchini, by the way, which is weird to see, since those cars are not the most, how would you say this, competitive with the current BOP, I believe, but also because these cars, as far as I know, don't have a hybrid system. So it is a hypercar, but it doesn't have a hybrid system as far as I know, which you don't see often. You only see that in the Isotta Franchini, the Van Wall, and the Aston Martin Valkyrie, which isn't quite in the game yet, but it's coming up soon, I believe. But back to quali here again. Karabachak has gained a little bit in Sector 1, has lost a bit again in Sector 2, but let's see what he can do in Sector 3 and see if he can put down the fastest time, just like he did in practice. And it seems like he just about can't, but maybe he can in the next lap, since Kesby is now in the pit. So if he can push for another lap after this, which is a possibility in these cars, but it doesn't seem like he's going to do that. Perfect. Then we're going to see, is anybody else on the lap? The Deugd has just gone on a lap again, but let's also check in with the GT3s, because I think Jonge is on a lap again, and he has set a quicker time this time around. 1.1 seconds behind the leader, so it's going to be quite hard to gain that back, especially since the second sector wasn't quite amazing. But there's nothing to do about that. That sort of thing happens sometimes. But he might be able to just about do another lap after this, since he has 1 minute left going into Blanchimont. That should give him enough time. So let's check in with him later again. Ramundo then also lost 2.5 seconds in the middle sector. Not amazing, but I can see that Stratemans hasn't quite put the best first sector in, since everybody is beating his first sector time. But he might just have set a massive middle sector time. Ramundo also going into the pits now. Let's see the Pril. The Pril then going on a lap. Will it be anything beaten? will beat anything. Let's see for the first sector, what are we going to get? First sector timing line should be around here. Only 1/10 slower than Straatman's through there, so that's not too bad actually. And in the Lamborghini as well, this is quite a new addition to LMU. Came in the last update. It's quite a squirrely car to drive. I personally don't quite know how people do it. On power it likes to, how do we say this? In a nice way. It does like to do the Shakira, uses hips a lot, twists around a bit. So it can be quite a handful to drive, but once you get it together in this car, it's very nice to drive. As you can see there, getting the perfect amount of turn in the Prill does. Getting no, those hips certainly don't lie of the Lamborghini, and going into the chicane here on the curb nicely, keeps it clean through there, which we don't see a lot. Goes onto the curb, ooh, just a bit into the gravel. Let's hope he can keep that lap time together, which we should see coming now. Yes, he's in total about half a second up, and if he can keep that going, that would put him in second place. So let's see what he gets in the final sector. Up to Blanchimont we go now. It can be just about flat out in these cars, as the Prill does. No hesitation there. Over the curb. And into the bus stop chicane he goes. Nicely on the inside curb. Keeping it together for the second part as well. Onto the exit curb then. We go up to the main to the finish line. And we have a... what do we have? A 221.25, which put him in third place. And I think he might have been the last one on a lap, or is Jonge still going to go for one? He might be able to get something out of here then. Let's see what we get up to the finish line. And we get a 220.9, which puts him in third place again. And we have one more person out of on track, Fabio Peroni. I don't think he will quite make the top 5, but it will be quite a nice addition to see what he can get. He gets a 222.245, which puts him in 8th place. Now then, now that quali has ended, we can do a little nice show. Let's see if I can get it together. The session results for quali 1. So in first place we have Ben Kesby, followed by Karabachak, Scotland, Payne, Keizer, De Deugd, McAllister, Baloch, Keks and Starrett. Then we get Matzan, Hoogstad, Ullman, Grover and Perry. I think some of those people, by the way, have not quite joined the server. So sorry about that. Then in P1 for the GT3s we have Straatman, followed by Borowick, followed by Jonge, followed by Papai and the Prill. Then we have Flint, Ramundo, Peroni, Sregli and Rave. Now, onto the starting grid. And this is going to be a very nice information. A very nice stat, I can show you that. This is still my favorite feature. So in first place we have Ben Kesby, followed by Karabachak. Then in third we have Callum Scotland, followed by Ty Spain in the QRT livery, which you can't quite see here. Then in fifth place we have Daniel Keizer, followed by Lucas de Deugd. Then in sixth place we have McAllister, and in eighth we have Baloch. Then in P9 we have Keks, followed by Starrett. Then in P11 we have Mazan, followed by Hoogstad. And I think this is, yeah, this should be where everybody from the qualifying people has been. Then we start with a P1 from GT3's Victor Straatman, followed by Jacob Borowick and Jeroen Jonge. Followed by, in fourth place for the GT3s, Christophe Papai and Jorn de Prill. Then followed by Jules Flint and Gaetano Ramundo. Followed by Fabio Peroni and Albert Seregli. And then the final qualifying member for this race, Bali
Formation
Rave.
lap has started.
And now we will go to the race start, where we will be following the man in P1, Mr. Caspi with the number 11, Isotta Franchini. Much like much like the number 11 Isotta Franchini from Karabachak, LMU is still weird with deliveries. But yeah, as I see in chat, Isotta Franchini leading is also quite surprising for me, and I think that one of them has also won a race already, which I was quite surprised by to hear, to be honest. Well, let's see how everybody gets on with the start then. And we should be hearing a green light any time now.
Green flag.
And it's a green flag, and we're off for the race start. And there's already a penalty for Rave, probably for some indecent driving, or how do you call it again, some unpredictable driving on a formation lap, as my overlay is now messing about a little bit because of the start. The two go up to Radio, and Rouge nicely with a bit of jumping, but let's head back to the GT3 field, where it looks like people are going side by side through Rouge, which isn't of course quite the way to go. Up to the Camel Straight we go. The two Lamborghinis side by side. Is there gonna be an overtake here? Yes, there has been on one of the BMWs, and that's a clean pass. Also in the back some overtake is happening, I see. Some more people going side by side, and a yellow flag somewhere in front. Can we see what happened here? By any chance? Ooh, one of the QRT guys, I believe it's Daniel Keizer, getting quite a bit of sideways actions for Brussels there. And also some people on the gravel for No Name Corner. Up to P1 we go, with Caspi still leading the field, but now Callum Scotland has gone in between number 1 and P1 and P2 Isotta Franchinis. So the Franchinis have been split by a BMW. Also nice to see. Up to Stavolo we go. Let's head back to the GT3 field, where Jeroen Jonge is now ahead of the rest of the pack. I don't know quite what has happened here since we last tuned out of the GT3 field, but enough happening in this race, and I don't know if my voice can keep up with everything that's happening at the moment. Quite a lot of surprises for me as well during this race. Jeroen Jonge is still in first, then let's see where that puts us with the hypercar field. I think we're still have the same order here. Yes, we have. Caspi still in front with Scotland behind him, but it looks like there is a Thijs Spain making a move on Karabachak there, who is going to take the outside into the source. Bit of wheel banging there, but that's no worry. These cars can handle it. They're made for it. They're made to last 24 hours. So a bit of wheel banging won't do too much harm. Up to Radion and Rouge we go then. Quite nicely done from all of them. And let's head back. Or shall we just have a look as Karabachak now gets overtaken by Daniel Keizer as well. Or does he? Keizer around the outside, just about thinks better of it, jumps over the curbs, but everything is fine. A bit of flashing lights as somebody goes off in the back. Who was that then? That was Jamie Starrett who went off. Can we see some damage on the car? It doesn't quite... No, it was McAllister who went off. My bad, sorry about that. And there does seem to be a tiny bit of damage on the front end, but doesn't seem too bad for the amount of impact we had. So let's head back a bit further down the field again to the GT3s, where Jonge is still leading the field, followed by Straatmans, followed by the Pill, who's now getting some pressure behind from Jules Flint. Flint trying his way through Brussels, just about thinking better of it, going up onto the grass, which the Lexus can just about handle. It's not quite a rally car, mate, but you can try everything you want, of course. And that little bit has put Flint in the hands of Papai, who's now going to try and move around the outside of Pouon, quite daring. Might try to put him on a different line to get a better exit out of here. It seems to have worked a little bit. as Papai is now getting quite a good exit. Trying to go around the outside of the chicane, not quite working. Damaged Ferrari from Borowick behind. Into Stavelo we go, and Flint making a bit of a mistake here. Papai going around the outside of Stavelo. He is going to make that stick, and is Borowick also going to go for a move here? Has Flint messed up his exit just about enough for Borowick to get in there or not? That's the question. Maybe just about not. I wouldn't try it through Blanchimont if I were you. That's quite a daring one. No, maybe into the bus stop he can go around the outside. No, but Flint doing an amazing dive on Papai. Can he keep the inside there? Can he make the exit on the... Oh, wrong cars. Sorry about that. I wanted to stay with the battle we have at hand. Hasn't quite made it stick, Flint has, but he's going to try it again around the outside of Lesource. Not quite work, nearly getting overtaken by Borowick there. Up to a Rouge we go. Will he try anything down the Camel Straight? You have to lift a bit there if you want to make that possible. You're a bit close to the back end of Papai here, but it seems like the Lexus of Flint has got a bit of a better exit already alongside before we're even on the Camel Straight. But which car has the better straight line speed? Is it the Lexus? Is it the BMW? We don't know. They're both still side by side up onto the chicane, and ooh, it's just about side by side still. Will they keep it nice and clean through here? It does seem like it. With Papai just taking a bit of a better exit through there. Up to Brussels we go. We're not side by side anymore. Papai going for a heavy dive to the inside to try and defend the line. But Flint diving to the inside of Brussels here. Will he be able to make the move stick before No Name? Not quite yet. Pushing each other a little bit. Ooh, a little bit of wheel banging, and Papai has spun. Will he get it back on track quickly? Yes, he has. That's quite a good recovery from Papai. I don't know if we will see anything from the stewards, but if I hear anything from the stewards, I will let you know as quickly as possible. Now, with all those things happening in a hypercar field, let's head back to the hypercar field again, I mean. Yeah, Papai has dropped it a little bit, but that's no issue. Then, in the hypercar field, we have Caspi in front still. Then Scotland behind him. And with a bit of a gap towards them is Thai Spain in a beautiful QRT livery. Sorry, I have to put a bit of sponsorship in, but we will... I have to, sorry about that. And yeah, as I see in chat, there's still 50 minutes left, even more so. We will definitely be able to maybe get Papai back into the top 5, if he does well enough. Let's see for the rest of the hypercar field then, while I take a sip of the water. Gabar Chakhu, qualified P2, has dropped back 2 positions, up to P4. Kaiser is now in P5. Baloch is in P6, with Kex quite closely behind him. Jamie Starrett a bit further back, and as I see some people are dropping down. Lucas Deugd is in a pit, I believe, and McAllister is also going for a pit stop. That is quite early, so that must be for damage then. Otherwise, if this is a normal pit stop, I don't think they will make it to the end without a big amount of fuel saving. So I think this is purely a pit stop for damage. Car will have been on drivable probably. So let's see if McAllister can make it back through the GT3 field into the hypercar field, since he has now dropped back behind all of the GT3 cars with about a 90-100 second cap. It is 100 seconds now, so that's not quite where you want to be. And we will see how he comes back into the race if he's able to. Now back to the GT3 field for a bit, since I see the gaps are still quite close there with Jeroen Jonge on top still, with Straatmans behind him on about half a second. Let's see if we can get anything from these two happening in the next couple of laps, since it would be nice to see some more action on track. And they're following each other into the chicane, up to Stavelo. A bit of gravel kicking up there from the wheels of Jonge. let's see if Straatmans can get close to him. Onto the back straight they go. Another bit of gravel kicked up by Jonge. I think he might have overpushed those tires a little bit, or he's just a bit scared for Straatmans behind him. While the BMW should be the quicker car around Spa because of its straight line speed capabilities, he might be feeling the pressure from Straatmans behind as he runs away a little bit on the straights, as you can see, but Straatmans then closing right back up in the braking zone of bus stop and also getting a bit of a better exit, I believe. A bit of a better exit. Yes, he has done, and he's quite close again into the source. And he did get a better exit again out of the source. Let's see, can he get close enough for the camel straight? Will he be able to stay in the slipstream and get a nice slingshot onto that camel straight? It does seem like he has got quite a nice slingshot, but he will probably start gaining time again on Jonge in the corners, which will be coming up now as I see wipers going on. That means there's rain happening. There's rain falling on track, I'm sorry. I mispronounced that a little bit. So there's rain falling on track now. Let's see how long it takes for these guys to go onto wets, as I can also see there's a bit of a fight unfolding, which has now, well, not unfolded in a hypercar class, since I saw Scotland and Gatsby coming quite close together. But Gatsby is running away a bit from Scotland at the moment. So we will stay with the GT3 field for now, with Straatmans closing up again on Jonge, and Jonge running away on every little bit of straight there is, and then Straatmans gaining his time back again on every corner there is. Such an interesting battle to see how these two cars battle each other with such different characteristics. So that's also going to be a hard one for Straatmans to make an overtake, because he has to overtake Jonge in one of the corners, since he won't be able to do it on the straight, since Jonge will just run away on the straight. And he has gotten quite a good exit, Straatmans, onto the back straight. And he is closing up a little bit, but not quite enough to go for a move into the bus stop chicane, I think. Maybe we will see something happening due to the rain, some pit stops we could be seeing. Or maybe the rain won't be heavy enough to change to wet tires. We really don't know. At the moment, it's all guesswork for me as well. I wish I knew what was going to happen, as Straatmans now really close up behind. And going for another... trying for every place he can. Oh god, so much happening in this battle, but not... like, it's so close, but nothing is quite happening yet, as Jonge jumps over the curb through Radio. And Victor Straatmans coming closer behind him, but not quite on this lap. I think Jonge has done quite well out of the source to run away from Straatmans. But maybe Straatmans can get back up close to Jonge again through the corner sections. As we see that McAllister is slowly overtaking the GT3 field. Or does it seem... let's check that. If we go for the hypercar tower data and for tires, can we see if our man McAllister is already on the rain tires? No, McAllister is on the... it seems like McAllister is on the soft tires. Quite a daring choice, if I say so myself, but we will see how he gets through GT3 field. And so we now tune back into Jonge and Straatmans. Can McAllister throw something into the... I'm trying to use sayings that don't quite work in English. Sorry about that. But can McAllister maybe screw over Jonge by overtaking him and then giving Straatmans the position? We will see. And there... he goes, doing it quite nicely on the straight, not interfering with the battle at all. That is quite nice to see. As we now have Stratemans coming up quite close again to Jonge, but nothing quite happening yet. So we have a bit of field spread in the hypercars and also in the GT3s, with the first two in the GT3s not having any real contention from the Pril, Flint and Ramundo behind. And the same goes for the hypercars, where I did see, if I picked up to Captain next again, a bit of a fight happening around Kaiser. Kaiser is the first of this pack in the in position number 3, as I see quite a lot of raindrops falling. Now flashing the Lexus in front to go for the move around. The Lexus moving out to the side quite nicely there, which isn't compulsory, by the way. In this class, the GT3s should just hold their line, but if they're really nice, they can move out of the way. As this group is now heading up to the entire GT3 field, and who can manage the traffic the best? That's the question. Who will come out on top on the traffic management game? If it's Kaiser, he will get a bit of a bigger lead, as we are now having the top two of the GT3s very close together again, whereas Kabaracek is getting hauled up a bit by the Lamborghini GT3 car behind him. And Callum Scotland, will he go through the move before Pouon? Yes, he will. Quite nicely done, alongside on the brakes, on the curb a little bit, outside, and gone. Daniel Keizer still in front of this group, and they are now coming up to Jonge and Stratemans, who are getting pushed aside a little bit by the hypercars as they pass by, which might help Thijs Payne a little bit in his fight with Casby. Can we see, will Jonge get held up a bit by the hypercars, or will Stratemans get held up a bit by the hypercars? We really don't know what's going to happen here. Stratemans making a bit of space for the Isotta Franchini of Kabaracek as they go through Blanchimont up to the bus stop. Will we see a BMW hypercar trying to go for a move on either of the GT3s? No, he waits nicely, lets them battle it out. He will probably go for a move on this straight, and then up to the source as well, weaving in between them nicely, and he is gone. And that has spread out the hypercar field a bit again, as we have Stratemans again quite close to Jonge, but not quite being able to do anything about it, since every time he gets close through the corner, Jonge runs away again on the straight. It must be very annoying for Stratemans to have Jonge in front of him, just running away on the straights every time. As an experienced racer, I know how annoying that is to see. Every time you think, yes, now I've got him, he's just gone again on the straight. Nothing more annoying than that. Well, maybe being crashed out of the race on the first lap, but apart from that, this is one of the most annoying things you can get in racing, of course. As we get into the corner, in the technical corner section again of Spa-Francorchamps, will Stratemans in the Lamborghini get close again to Jonge in the BMW? As he does seem to get quite close into Brussels, up to No Name, but then Jonge can stretch the legs of the BMW a bit again, and he will probably run away a bit up to Pouon, or has Stratemans got such a good exit that he can get closer? It does seem like it right now. Up to Pouon we go, losing a bit of time he is there, Stratemans. But seems like he did that on purpose, prioritizing the exit. Now closer than ever, Stratemans. Is he going to go for the move? He moves towards the inside, doesn't quite do a move. But will he be close enough to do anything else on this lap, as the Lamborghini hypercar overtaking the Lamborghini GT3 now? And also overtaking the BMW of Jonge. Now Jonge can get a bit of a slipstream onto that straight, whereas the Porsche did a nice way of just waiting a little bit until the end of the corner, until the exit, and then powering out. Where Stratemans is now again quite close to the back of Jonge, up to Blanchimont. Might he be close enough this time? As he runs a bit wide, so it probably won't be, because he will have to lift to not get a track cutting penalty for that, track limit penalty. So now out of the bus stop we are getting a bit of a wiggle from Stratemans. Does this mean it might be time to go for wets then? It might be, but as the drops are increasing on the cars, I don't see anybody quite thinking about changing tires yet. I haven't seen anybody in the pits, apart from, of course, the people who haven't joined this session. I haven't seen anybody in the pits for rain tires, as we now see that Jonge is getting a bit of a gap again towards Stratemans, and Payne is getting ever so much closer to Keizer. To Kesby, I mean. Excuse me. I'm getting these names mixed up a bit. So, Thijs Payne getting a bit closer to Kesby now. The gap closer than it has been before, I believe. Let's see if he can push through and get really close enough to Kesby to try and make a move on that Sotto Franchini. Which he should be able to do, especially with Kesby making a bit of a mistake there. Into the gravel he goes, with just 40 minutes remaining in the session. And up the back straight we go, with Kesby again going into the gravel a little bit, losing in time. Now, Thijs Payne is within half a second of Kesby and gaining ever more on the back straight because of that little tire dip into the gravel from Kesby. So Payne quite close up behind into the bus stop, not quite going to be able to make a move there yet. But will he be able to do anything out of the bus stop chicane? They are both sliding nearly synchronously, even, and up to the source we go. Thijs kind of faking a move, already halfway down the straight, going into the source, taking a bit of a later apex to try and prioritize that exit up to Eau Rouge, which they both should be able to take flat, even when following each other, but still, we will see what is going to happen as both of them go quite cleanly through there. Thijs taking a bit of curb, a bit too much even. So, down the camel straight we go, into the chicane now. Thijs still quite close behind, getting a bit of a drift on the entry, which seemed to be brake related. Also his rear brakes lighting up, as you can see there, but not his front ones. So that might have to do with his battery being full. That might be one of the things. Or he just might have his brake bias set very much to the rear. Which also of course is a possibility. But a nice thing to talk about here, which not everybody of you might know, is that how the hybrid system works in this game. So basically all the hypercars, apart from the Isotta Franchini, the Van Wall and the Aston Martin, have a hybrid system with two different ways of using that hybrid system. You have the LMH cars, which are the Le Mans hypercars, and you have the LMDH cars, which are the Le Mans Daytona hypercars. The Le Mans Daytona hypercars are also allowed to be used in the IMSA series, and the LMH cars are only allowed to be used in the WEC series, whereas the LMDH, so the Le Mans Daytona hypercars, are also allowed to be able to use in IMSA and WEC. Are you still following? Because this is quite a complicated thing to explain in an easy way. So basically, the LMDH cars that are also allowed to drive overseas in the Americas have the hybrid system on the rear wheels of the car only. So meaning, as we see a bit of a mistake from Kesby there, Thijs Payne just hitting him on the back, and Keizer running away with it for now, as he's in first, with a bit of a flash from Kesby, I think, out of annoyance. But to be honest, I think he did that himself a bit. He slipped wide, he let his rear end rotate just a bit too much, and, well, Thijs just hit him a little bit on the rear quarter. Not much Thijs could have done there, Mr. Payne, but he is going to try and go for the move still anyways. As Thijs Payne is now very close behind Kesby again, and he is faking a move up to the chicane, maybe just to put some extra pressure on Kesby again. But yeah, where was I again? As Keizer goes wide there. Okay, I should not start my story, since every time I try to start my story there's something happening with Keizer in front, now having a big snap of oversteer. Kesby going for the inside up in Brussels. And Kesby now in P1 and Kaiser in P2. As we have an amazing battle for the lead here, with Kaiser going a bit wide onto the gravel, even onto the grass, but he still maintained a good exit. And a nice drive up to Puon, where he goes wide, and that will probably give Payne the position now. If I think that was a bit of an unsafe rejoin, but we'll have to see what the stewards think of that. As Payne tries to go for the inside, gets the move done, elbows out, and he's passed. But that has lost him a bit of time to Kesby, as Kaiser is definitely a bit annoyed with what Payne did there. But anyways, up into P2 and we go on. So yeah. Now, also in the GT3 field, Straatmans even closer than before now, up to the chicane, into the corner section, the technical bit of Spa, with the most amount of corners there is on the track, and he's quite close behind, which will be a big benefit for him. Even closer now, within 0.2 of a second, trying to go for the inside up in Brussels. Will he get there? No, he just about thinks better of it, going a bit wide on the entry, prioritizing a late apex, going for the exit. Up to No Name, he's probably going to try and do the same thing here again. He's taking a bit of a later apex on the BMW of Jonge, trying to get a better exit up to Buon, and it seems like it has worked. As he is trying to get alongside on the inside now, just thinks better of it a little bit. Is he going to prioritize the exit again? It does seem like it a little bit. Will that get him anywhere into this chicane? Going up the inside again to put a bit of pressure on, but is he going to get the overlap? Just about doesn't seem like it. Jonge closes the door on Stratemans, which he is of course allowed to do. And then we go up to Stavelo, Stratemans on the outside, Jonge closing the door again. Quite aggressively, but all within the rules. And is Stratemans going for a good prioritized exit again up to Blanchimont? We still see the wipers going, but nobody in the pits yet. Stratemans is now alongside Bartley, just about not. Jonge leaving the space. He's within a 10th. Up to Blanchimont we go. If Stratemans can get a good way through Blanchimont, he might be able to just put it alongside before the bus stop, since he just about loses some time there. He really needs to go for a dive if he wants to make anything stick for the bus stop here. As it seems like he did get a bit of a better first part, prioritizing the exit again, but getting a bit of slip angle, a bit too much of it on exit, and that seems like it's overheated rear tires. Back to the drawing board, get up back close again, as we see Thijs Payne again quite close up to the back of Kesby. So much happening here in this race as they go up to Blanchimont, and 7/10 now, not quite close enough to do anything, as we have Mr. Payne just behind, getting a bit of slip angle again into the first bit, but it seems to have worked a little bit for Payne, that amount of drift. He's now side by side with Kesby. They're really trying to push each other off track here. I don't know what is happening here with those two. Seems like the cars got connected, trying to push each other off. I really don't know what that was all about between those two. Maybe just a bit of miscommunication in the car. But anyways, Payne still in P2. Up to Rouge and Radion we go, taking a bit of courtesy with the track limits there. And just 3/10 behind now, up to Camel Straight with a big slipstream. Up to Lecombe we go. He's going to go for the inside. He's going to make the dive. No, he isn't. He thinks better of it. As we now get into the GT3 field again, who has the better traffic management? It seems like the Lexus got out of the way there very nicely, as Thijs Payne spins there on the back end of Kesby. He spins it. Hold your brakes. He has done well with that, but that is also going to be hopefully not too much damage. Just reset mentally, back to the drawing board, since I think that battle has gotten quite heated there. So that's going to be back to the drawing board for Payne. As we see now, Victor Stratemans again very close to the back of Jonge, trying to go for the move anywhere, everywhere and anywhere he can. As they come up to the back straight again, up to Blanchimont they go, just 2/10 between them, even less than last time around. Will he try to go for anything into bus stop here, or is it too far again for Stratemans? I think it's going to be a bit too far for a dive once again, but can he get the better exit out of the bus stop and try to go for anything up La Source? Which might be a way to go. But he is going to prioritize exit again, as I can see his line, and that has helped a little bit. Gotten a bit of a better exit, but will it be enough? Stay in the slipstream down this straight, up to La Source we go. Trying to just show his car a bit in the mirrors of Jonge to put a bit of extra pressure on him. Going a bit more to the outside, taking a later apex and prioritizing the exit once again. Going up to Eau Rouge now, with just 3/10 between the two. Up to the Camel Straight. Once again, is the slipstream enough for Stratemans to get close to Jonge? It doesn't quite seem like it. So, as we see as well, Thijs Spain going to the pits. The damage will have been a bit too much, but I think since a hypercar can do about 45 minutes per stint, this should be enough for him. This could also just be a normal stop and the repairing of the damage is being an added bonus, as Spain doesn't quite park it correctly in the spot there. As you can see the car move in after stopping. So we're gonna see where he comes out in the strategy game. As we go back to Jeroen Jonge and Victor Straatmans, now getting overtaken by one of the Porsche hypercars. Where we have them going through No Name again. Where Stratemans has got that bit of a better exit again up to Pouwon, but he's really gonna have to think about where he wants to put his car and where he wants to make a move, since I think he has tried every corner about now, but it hasn't quite worked in any of them. Which is quite interesting for the defense game, as he's gonna go to the outside for this one here, which is gonna change to the inside if he could have gotten it alongside, but he hasn't quite got that. Prioritizing the later apex and a better exit again here. Up to Stavelo we go, going for the inside, showing his car again in the mirrors. He has compromised his own line a bit with that as well, but I think he might get a bit of a better exit still through this one, as it does not quite seem like it, and one of the Isotta Franchini's now coming up behind as well, not quite knowing where to go with that BMW of Jonge there. Going a bit off track, but that's fine. A bit of a miscommunication between drivers, which often happens in multi-class racing, but it didn't result in an actual incident, so it's fine. And since it's up to the hypercar drivers to go around safely, that would have been the Isotta Franchini's problem anyways. So now the gap between these two increasing a little bit again. Oh, a hectic race this one is. We've just a bit less than 30 minutes ago, about 30 minutes if we count the final lap, of course. And Jonge going a bit wide through the source here. Will that help him in any way, shape or form up to Eau Rouge? It might do a little bit, as he has extended his gap a little bit again to Stratemans. Well. Like I was saying beforehand about the hypercars, let's go back to that again. So, with the hypercars we of course have the LMDH, so the Le Mans Daytona hybrids. As you can see, that BMW there in the back of the shot is one of those. Those are allowed to drive in both the World Endurance Championship and the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, because those cars have a hybrid system on the back wheels and the back wheels only. So all the power they get from both the internal combustion engine, which for the BMW is a nice lovely V8, and the hybrid engine, both go to the rear wheels, which also gives these cars the distinct bump start you will all know and love, especially the one from the Cadillac, which is my personal favorite. And then we also have the Le Mans hybrids, the Le Mans hybrid hypercars. Those are allowed to drive in the World Endurance Championship, as we have the Ferrari, the Peugeot and some other cars for that as well. Those cars have the hybrid system on the front wheels of the car, and the internal combustion engine powers the rear wheels of the car. They also get a bit more deployment from the engine because it's on the front wheels, and they have to match about the same amount of energy deployment during a lap. So the Le Mans hypercars, the LMH cars that are allowed to drive only in the World Endurance Championship, get about 200 kilowatts of power to the front wheels. but that only counts for speeds above 190 kilometers an hour. Because they have the power on the front wheels, they don't want to give them the added benefit of four-wheel drive through all the corners. So in the slow corners, that would be a huge amount of benefit for those cars, since it's way easier to drive out of a corner with a four-wheel drive car than it is for a two-wheel drive car. As we now see Victor Stratemans going into the pits, not quite knowing what to do with Jonge, going for an undercut maybe. Let's see what that brings us in the next bit of the race as we go with our previous pit stop, Thijs Payne. He is now in P7, and I think by seeing how far he has dropped behind, about 80 seconds to the lead, where he was just 10 seconds behind earlier. Normally a stop doesn't take 70 seconds as far as I know. Not around Spa either, so that will probably have been a bit of damage repair too. Maybe Caspi also needs a bit of damage repair after all that happened. But we'll have to see about that as we now see Keks in the pits. And our man Stratemans already going out of it quite quickly. With just a 30-second gap to Jeroen Jonge. About 35. I can see now if I do this one. So yeah, around 30 seconds to Jeroen Jonge with that gap. So that might be quite close. And if we see Jeroen Jonge peel into the pits, we'll have to really see what's going to happen between those two. As we now go back to the lead of the hypercar field, just a small recap on who we have where at the moment. And not everybody has made a pit stop yet, so this is definitely not the end of it yet. As in first place for the hypercar field, we have Ben Kesby in the Isotta Franchini, which is still quite a weird look, of course. The Isotta Franchini in P1. And then in P2, we have another Isotta Franchini from Karabachak. Then in third place, we have the BMW of Callum Scotland. In P4, we have the Porsche of Daniel Kaiser. Patrick Balloch in P5 in another Porsche. Jonas Kax in the Lamborghini was in P6, where we now have Thijs Payne. So P7, Jonas Kax. P8, we have Jamie Starrett. And in P9, we have Darren McAllister in another Porsche. That's a quick recap for the hypercar field, where not everybody has pitted yet, but we will see where we get with those people at the end of the pit stop phase. Then in P1 for the GT3 field, we have Jeroen Jonge, who's now coming up to the bus stop chicane. Is he going to go for a pit stop? It does not seem like it quite yet. Then in P2 we have Jules Flint. In P3 we have Christophe Papai, Victor Strateman in P4, and P5 we have Albert Seragli. I hope I pronounced it correctly. In P6 we have Ramundo in the Lexus, and in the final position for GT3s we have Fabio Perroni. In P7 another Lexus with Thijs Payne now coming up quite closely behind him. Ooh, a bit of clipping there between those two. I think that might not be... Whoa, as we see Perroni absolutely flying past. That is gonna have to be a pit stop at least. It might even be a retirement by how hard that hit was, and also the front end of the car housing the engine. That might bring some problems later on for Perroni. And let's see what the stewards do with that. Who are they gonna decide has the blame for that incident? I would definitely not want to be a steward for this one. I'm glad I'm up here in the broadcasting suite and not in the steward's room, since that is going to be a very difficult decision to make from what I have seen up to now. Do we have anyone close to each other at the moment? Let me have a little look. Right now, not quite yet, but we have Jeroen Jonge all on his own, with the closest car 14 seconds behind. Absolute dominance for now, but we're gonna see where Stratemans comes, as he is now 29 seconds behind, and his gap at first was 30 seconds, so he might be getting a little bit closer. And maybe that those tires having cooled off a bit in the pits might have helped him a little bit, because I don't think he switched tires, because if he would have switched tires, the pit stop might have taken a bit longer. So maybe letting those tires cool off a little bit during his fuel pit stop might have helped him a little bit in terms of getting closer to Jeroen Jonge, and we're gonna have to see how that unfolds and if Jonge is gonna go into the pits right now or if he's gonna extend with another couple of laps, which might put him in even more danger from the other undercut from Victor Stratemans. As he goes up to the bus stop chicane now, he is still not going to peel onto the pit. Are we gonna see anybody else trying to do that? Papai now with the Porsche of Kaiser behind him. And Jules Flint in P2. Is he gonna go for a pit stop? No, he isn't either. Another fun thing I might be able to tell you. As you can see on the side of the cars, they should have a couple of lights. I don't quite know where they are for the BMW. There, right there on the rear side window. You see one little light bulb on the side of that. Then if we go to Jules Flint's car, just in front of the rear wheel well, you see two little light bulbs go on. Correct? And he's in P2. Then for Christopher Papai, we should see 3 light bulbs go on. If you can get the right side of the car to show that. Yes, on that side you see 3 little light bulbs go on. And if you want to know the meaning behind that, it's quite simple. Every car in the World Endurance Championship needs to have those. And basically what those lights do for the spectators is show them which car is in P1, P2 and in P3 of the class. So if we go back to Jeroen Jonge, he only has one of those light bulbs on, meaning he's in P1. Then Jules Flint has 2 on, meaning he's in P2. And Christopher Papai having 3 lights on, not quite rendering for me at the moment, but we might get them into Brussels. There we see the 3 lights on, meaning he's in P3 of the class. Then we have Victor Stratemans in P4 with none of those lights on, as you can see on the door. None of those lights are on, meaning he's in P4 or lower in his class. And if I'm not mistaken, the hypercar car should have those as well. Yes, as you can see just behind the front wheel well for Caspi here, you see one little red light on, and that. Then for Gabarchuk you see 2 little red lights on, and for Callum Scotland, just in front of the rear wheel well, you see 3 little red lights on. The funny thing with those lights as well is, they also show you which class a car is in. So hypercar class has red lights, and the hypercar class is always red, so it's quite easy to see. One red light bulb going around the track means you're watching the leader in hypercar class. Then the GT3s have an orange light, and an orange light means it's in the GT3 class, of course. So with one orange light bulb going around the track, you know you're following the leader of the GT3 class. Now we have a third and final class, of course, in for example Le Mans, and there you have the LMP2 cars. If I'm not mistaken, the LMP2 cars have a blue light bulb, as we see a big crash happening behind. Let me just see who that was again. I think that was Jonas Gex. He had a bit of a slip and slide out of Rouge there, but he seems to have collected the car quite nicely with not too many issues. Nothing in terms of damage as far as I can see on the car at the moment. So it seems to just have been a little slip off, or maybe a bit of a touch with the Lexus in front of him, or maybe a little touch with Daniel Keizer could also be a possibility. As we still have, as I don't quite know what has happened between those 2 or 3, but we might get some more clearance on that. Might get some more information on that at the end of the race, if we have another yellow flag somewhere. What has happened now again then? I don't quite know, as the yellow flag has disappeared. Might just have been someone who ran a bit wide into one of the gravel traps. Always a possibility at Spa. As I get a question from the so jeez Louise, my brain is not quite functioning after 40 minutes of talking non-stop. As I get a question from the stream chat, yes, Jeroen is 17 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, and yes, he still has to pit. I believe the only one to have not pitted to have pitted in GT3 class is Stratemans. I don't know if the rest does have to pit or if they're ultimately fuel saving, but I think the pit window should be closing if they're really going to want to pit at any point. And if there's a point where they want to pit, it should be now or next lap, because I think you can do 45 to 50 minutes on a fuel tank unless you'll fuel save a lot. So he might get to see Jonge go in the next lap, as we see Stratemans just make an overtake on Christophe Papai. He's working his way back up with a 27-second gap to Jeroen Jonge now, so he's gonna have to have a really quick pit stop if he wants to keep his position to Stratemans. But of course, the more laps Jeroen Jonge completes, the less he will have to fuel up, the less time he's gonna lose during the pit stop. So it might be quite close between those two near the end of the race, as we're gonna see by then, hopefully, how the strategy has worked out for Jonge at that point. But the gap between those two ever closing up, with Victor Stratemans now being 27 seconds just about behind Jonge, as Jonge is gonna get overtaken by one of the Porsches, having a bit of a snap of oversteer on the exit there. Not quite what you want to have when being overtaken by hypercars. But yeah, the gap staying a bit stagnant between Stratemans and Jonge, but Stratemans is ever so slightly closing the gap a little bit by a little bit. Just 2 seconds gained over the last, what is it, 10-20 minutes. So I don't know if anything's gonna happen between those two, but we will clearly see close to the end of the race. As we don't really have anything going on track at the moment, apart from Christophe Papai being quite close to Stratemans, but Stratemans of course just having overtaken him. So let's do a little rundown again, as everybody should have either pitted or is gonna run out till the end of the race by now, I think. So in P1 for the hypercar class, we have Ben Kesby still taking the lead at the start of the race and just keeping it there. Karabachak in P2 with the other Isotta Franchini, as you now know, seen by those little 2 dots of light on the side of the car. In P3 we have Callum Scotland in a BMW, and in P4, on quite a bit of time behind those two, about a minute behind P3 is Thijs Spain, after that bit of an incident that has sadly happened during this race. And then in P5 we have Daniel Keizer in the Porsche hypercar. Then we have Jonas Keks in P6, also with a bit of an incident up Rouge. Nice spin round, but no damage as far as I can see still. Patrick Balog in P7. Darren McAllister in P8 in the other Porsche, and then Jamie Starrett in a Ferrari in P9. Then leading the GT3 field, still quite dominant here after taking the lead in the first couple of laps and not having let it go since, Jeroen Jonge. In P2 we have Jules Flint in the Lexus. Lovely sounding car this. I will just shut up for a bit so you can listen to it. Yep, I'm not going to ever get over that V8 sound of that Lexus. Then in P3 you have Victor Stratemans in the Lamborghini, just getting overtaken by an Isotta Franchini. Is it all going to go correctly? Yes, it has. No worries there. Sergeli in P4, still hoping I'm saying that correctly, also getting overtaken by a different Isotta Franchini, the one from Kabrachak, I believe. And I love this livery, just had to put it out there. The white to green to the black in a kind of striped clawed way, looks really cool in my opinion. Then we have Ramundo in another Lexus in P5. Christopher Papai in the kind of making me think of a Monster Energy Can car BMW behind in P6, and then in P7 we have Fabio Peroni, who of course had the big off when Thijs Spain tried to overtake him into the bus stop chicane. I hope the car is alright, does seem like it, still sounds good, so it should be fine. And now we have Christoph Papai only a second behind on Ramundo as we go to the GT3 class here. And getting quite close, those two. But will we see anything really happening here? That is the question, of course. As he is now within half a second of Ramundo, and it seems like he's gonna go for the overtake on him, as we're getting Thijs Spain joining the party, having those two battle nicely, trying to pick his way around the outside of the Lexus, doing so quite well, or just waiting behind a little bit and getting them on the straights. And as I see Jeroen Jonge is on the pit exit now, as I have been told by chat, and it seems like Straatmans has just gotten the jump on him by a little bit, but they should be close enough, and maybe Jonge, with now his cold tires from the pits, might be able to push just that little bit more in the last 10 minutes, and we'll definitely see how this battle unfolds. Since it's only 2 seconds between those two, it should be a possibility for Jonge to take anything out of the tires he wants. And I don't know if Straatmans is going to be able to do that, as we look at the tire compounds of these two. Oh yeah, it doesn't make any sense to look at that, of course, since GT3s only have one tire compound. So I don't know if Jonge has put new tires on, or if he has stayed on the same tires, but with the amount he's sliding around, they might be new, so meaning he needs to get them up to temp a little bit. And once he has those tires up to temp, he should be able to fully push and do just a couple of quali laps to get up to the back of Straatmans again, and get to go for the P1. As I'm gonna look if there's anything else happening on the field in the field at the moment, since these two are gonna take a while to get the battle to heat up back again. Let's see, we have a 3-second gap between Thijs Spain and Daniel Keizer, but I think that is just Thijs Spain being held up a bit by the battle of Ramundo and Papai, with Papai now having run away quite a bit, about 3 seconds in 1.5 laps time or so from Ramundo. As the pit stops are now unfolding, we might see some different things happening in the field as well. I don't know if Kesby still has to pit or if he's absolutely fine in terms of fuel. The same goes for Kaprachak, for Callum Scotland. Don't know if he has to pit or if he has been fuel saving a lot as well during the race, as he is now coming up behind one of the GT3 Lamborghinis. And nothing happening there as we see. Oh, that is Victor Straatmans, who has quite increased his gap to Jeroen Jonge to 3.5 seconds now. So Jonge now 3.5 seconds behind Victor Straatmans. I really hope that's the cold tires and nothing else, because if it's something else, it's probably not going to be anything for the win. But if it's the cold tires, it might be able to do something to get back to the back of Straatmans and get into the P1 battle, which would be quite nice to see for us, of course. And we now have Daniel Keizer really close up behind Thijs Spain. I don't know if that's been due to GT3 traffic, or if that is just those two doing an absolutely amazing job, or Daniel Keizer doing well getting up to the back of Thijs Spain, as we're gonna see now, only half a second behind. Probably gonna try nothing into Lecom, which I would not advise from this far back, of course, as he is taking a nice line through there, prioritizing exits, but still half a second behind. A bit less now into Brussels, flashing Thijs Spain to get out of his way probably, which you can do all you want, but Spain can defend however he wants, whenever he wants, since it is for a position, of course. So now coming out from No Name up to P1 we go, and Daniel Keizer getting ever so slightly closer to Payne again, but losing a bit on the entry of this corner. Is he going to try and prioritize an exit? He is going to try that, it seems like, but not quite doing anything into this chicane right now, as we're probably not seeing quite the full pace of Thijs Spain yet, since he can't use his hybrid unit around these corners, since these corners are all below 190 kilometers an hour, and he is in a Le Mans hypercar, which has, of course, the front engine hybrid system, whereas Daniel Keizer has a rear engine hybrid system which can be used at any speeds, but it does give him a little bit less power, so it will help him a little bit on the exits of the slower corners, but through medium and high speed corners, Thijs Spain should have a bit of an advantage, as we're probably going to see into Eau Rouge. As Keizer gets ever so slightly closer, a bit of a better exit out of the bus stop chicane. Is he going to try anything into the source? He might. Will he be close enough though? Thijs Spain going for the defensive line, which will help Keizer only ever so slightly more, as he's gonna get the better exit out of the source as well, going for the outside up to Radio and Eau Rouge. Is Thijs Spain gonna give him enough space to go past the Lamborghini? No, he isn't. He's boxing it nicely there. As they both go through Eau Rouge now, taking a bit of courtesy with track limits again. Up to the back of the Lexus we go. Is everything gonna go right there? Yes, it is. No problems at all. With Keizer now being only 2/10 behind Spain, as Spain goes for the inside again. Is Keizer going to try it around the outside? Yes, he is pushing Thijs Spain all the way onto the curb. Thijs Spain handing back that favor and doing it in the second part of the corner, where Keizer now runs to the back of Thijs Spain a little bit, even more flashing now as Keizer is getting a bit heated in that P5 spot, wanting to go for P4 really badly, I see, with a bit of smashing into each other, and Thijs Spain seems to be safe for now, but will it stay that way? We don't really know that, as Keizer gets a bit closer again up through Pouon, where this will probably be his best point to try and gain some time again before we go to the back straight, as he's within half a second now again, the gap increasing to over half a second again. Up to Stavelo we go, a bit in the gravel. That's not what you want when you're trying to catch up with somebody, of course. Through Stavelo we go onto the back straight up to Blanche. Who will have the better exit? It seems like it's Thijs Spain, or it just about isn't, with the Porsche of Keizer edging closer ever so slightly up to Blanchimont. Through Blanchimont we go, both nice and collected through there, all the way over the curb to maximize the exit. Up to the bus stop we go, with Keizer gaining a bit of time and distance on Thijs Spain, as we can now see him again back in view. And a bit of a better exit out of the bus stop again, trying to get into that slipstream, trying to stay within the 6/10 window where the slipstream really works out in this class of cars before we go up to Eau Rouge, getting a very good exit compared to Thijs Spain out of the source. Up to Eau Rouge we go now. Are they gonna keep it clean through here? It does seem like it, with Keizer having a really good exit out of Eau Rouge again. Up the Camel Straight. Thijs really defending the inside heavily there, with Keizer having to go towards the outside, and Thijs Spain absolutely giving him no more room than is necessary. Keeping the inside but running wide a little bit. Has he spun it out, or is he fine? He does seem to have spun it out completely, defending just a bit too heavily, and that's not what you want to do now, with Jonas Keks getting a bit closer, but I don't think he will be a threat. Thijs Spain having given up the fight a little bit on that one, and I think the fight in GT3 field for P1 is also over, with a big gap between Victor Straatmans and Jeroen Jonge. Now it's 5.5 seconds. I don't think he's going to be able to catch that back up in the next 2 laps, which we're going to have probably before it's the end of the race, and not really anything happening on track at the moment. So with the last rundown coming now, and this will probably be the finishing position as well, we have Ben Caspi still in P1 in the Isotta Franchini. Again, weird to see those cars up at the front of the pack, as he's now going to go lap the Ferrari of Jamie Starrett. In P2 we have Karabacek, also in the Isotta Franchini. In P3 we have Callum Scotland in the BMW car. Then we have P4 we have Daniel Keizer with the nice overtake through Lecombe, with a bit of a mistake of Thijs Spain. In P4, Thijs Spain with a little bit of a mistake into Lecombe, probably a bit heated after all the battles he's had. but things can happen during these races, and luckily there's another one to gain his positions back that he might have lost in the championship. Then in P6 we have Jonas Keks in the Lamborghini. Then in P7 we have Patrick Baloch in the Porsche, Darren McAllister in P8 in the other Porsche, and then in P9 we have Jamie Starrett, who has let the Isotta Franchini of Ben Gaspy go. Then for the GT3s we have Victor Stratemans, who pulled off an amazing undercut strategy on Jeroen Jonge to gain his P1 position. In P2 then we have Jeroen Jonge with a nice 23 seconds gap to Jules Flint in the amazing sounding Lexus. Love that car. Then Christophe Papai in P4 in the BMW, the Monster Cant Turn 1 Sim Race BMW, Albert Saragelli in the lovely looking Lamborghini, then Ramundo in the other Lexus in P6, and in P7 we round out the field with the number 78 and P7 Lexus of Fabio Peroni. Well, let's head back to the race leader then to see him on his final lap. As we go up Eau Rouge for a final time in the hypercar class. Still flat out at the end of the race, no doubt about it. Running over the curb nicely there, which you can do in these cars. And then we go up to the Camel Straight. Into Le Combe we go, with a bit of a wiggling Lexus just in front of the camera there. And lovely over those curbs, hooking it nicely on the second one to gain a bit of extra turn in there. And up to Brussels we go. Are we going to go for a move on the Lexus, or are we going to play it clean? No, of course. Minimize the amount of track time, and we're going through Brussels, overtaking the Lexus and going into No Name. And after No Name, of course, we get to one with a very nice exit here from Casby. Up to the entry, hitting the curb a bit on the outside, a bit on the inside, going over even. Just about not hitting the grass on the second part, not getting anywhere close to the curb on the inside, just about brushing the curb on the outside. And then through the chicane here, not touching the curb on the inside, which I probably would have done, which is probably why I lose a lot of lap time on this track, with going through a big dust cloud on the exit into Stavelo we go. A bit over the exit curb with a bit of a twitch, which is totally okay with these tires being a bit dead after the end of a 1 hour long stint. Over the back straight, into Blanchimont we go now. Over the curb again, into the bus stop chicane, which will make this the final corner of the race for Ben Casby. Over the curbs nicely, and once again onto the exit. And are we going to see a bit of flashing for the win? Of course we are. Lovely race well controlled from Ben Casby here, and just right up behind him comes Karapachak for P2. No flashing from him. Still a good drive nonetheless. Then we have Callum Scotland coming up to Blanchimont now. He's in P3 for a hypercar class. Into the bus stop chicane we go, and keeping it nicely and controlled for the final time, and up to the finish line as we see Victor Straatmans going through Brussels now, and up to No Name through it on the exit, with having created a very big 10-second gap to Jonge, which those two, Jonge and Straatmans, being the final ones to complete the GT3 laps. So we're not going to see the P3 Jules Flint, who has already finished his lap on track anymore, but still a nice P3 from Flint in the Lexus. Then Stratemans in the Lamborghini coming up to Stavelo now. Up towards the back straight. Good exit once again, as ever, in a beautiful battle with Jeroen Jonge. Very well done on the strategy with the undercut today. Masterful show of a masterful mind in terms of strategy, with the amazing undercut giving him the win. And through Blanchimont we go, up to the bus stop chicane for the final time for Stratemans. that is a P1 in the GT3 class for Stratemans. Are we going to see some flashing? Yes, and some wiggling as well. Don't wiggle too much or you might be in the way of the Porsche there. And then in P2, of course, we have the BMW of Jeroen Jonge. A bit of a slide out of that corner, but well managed from him. No flashing, but a very good race nonetheless. Then I would like to slowly show you our session results of... Oh, I can't show the session results. Then we'll go for the end of race results here. Do we still have anybody out of track I can show, or one of the cars in the garage I can show? No, I don't quite have that. The camera doesn't want to work with me today. You know what, the shot is fine. In P1 we have Ben Caspi, followed by Gabrachak, followed by Callum Scotland, finishing off the top 3 of the hypercar class. Now we have Daniel Kaiser in P4 and Thijs Spain with a little bit of issues and a bit of heavy fighting for him in P5. Then we have Jonas Keks in P6, P7 we have Patrick Balog, Darren McAllister in P8, and in P9 we have the hypercar rounded out by Jamie Starrett. Then in P1 for the GT3 class we have Victor Stratemans with a very well managed strategy during the race. Jeroen Jonge in P2 and Jules Flint rounding out the top 3 for the hypercar class. Then we have Christophe Papai in P4, Albert Serkli in P14, 15 Ramundo Fabio Peroni in P last for the GT3 field. Then I want to thank you all very much for watching tonight. Have a good one everybody, and we will see you back at the next race next week. Thank you and good evening.